All right, fellas, we're live.
Welcome to Saturday Night Sweat. We're here to talk about the greatest contest in the world, Circa Survivor, and of course, Circa Grandissimo as well. My name is Tony Farmer. We have some great guests lined up for you guys today, including Mitch Moss, Sam Soverell, who's still alive in Grandissimo, one of six, and 2022 Circa Survivor champion Alex Brown. First, though, we're going to react live to the Circa Survivor selection count that just came out a few minutes ago. I'm here with Mike Buckmiller, 2022 Circa Survivor champion, and four-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner David Baker. Guys, we just found out that 44% of the people got through with the Patriots on Thursday. 12.9% on the Texans. I think a lot of people are expecting that number to be higher. 11.5% on the Steelers, 9.9% on the Packers, 8.8% on the Ravens, 4.3% on the Falcons. You guys can see the rest. Mike, I want you to react live to this. What stands out to you? Maybe a little surprise or not?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm surprised. Maybe I was just trying to be optimistic and hoping that the Pats number would stay below 40%. Obviously, those Thursday games, you never know what the public, how they feel about playing those games. Some people just don't like to play them. But on top of that is just, sometimes people just set their alarm for Saturday or Friday and they don't think about it early in the week. But anyways, yeah, I mean, up to 44%. I was hoping sub 40, but yeah, for the most part, kind of where I thought. And I just got a feeling as the week continued that people were getting a little worried about Houston. And it correlated with the line, at 7.5, 7, blew through that down to now 6. It just felt like the trend would be with Mills as quarterback, Tennessee coming off the bye. And the Texans beat the Titans pretty good the first go around, but it was 6-0 going into the fourth. And it's not really indicative to the final score. So I think the second go around, I think people got a little worried there, probably went more towards the Patriots and maybe a little bit more towards the Steelers. But other than that, I think everything fell in line.
In case people are wondering, the one entry that has 10 left in Circa Survivor put all 10 on the Patriots and got through. David, what's your reaction to this selection count?
My real only reaction was I was surprised that Baltimore was as high as it was. I think that them at 9% is pretty high. I mean, they're such a golden ticket coming up, and I think it kind of speaks to what's left in this contest. It's a lot of people playing scared, and I understand it. And I'm not saying that we have not at times played some entry scared. We did a couple weeks ago when we decided to take the Lions when I think people are just kind of scared by these mid-tier teams like Houston and Pittsburgh. And they're like, let's just push off the uncomfortability for as long as possible by taking the Patriots or taking the Ravens or like even the Packers, like almost. It's just people want to be comfortable right now, and they'll just kick the can down the road, and they'll save their uncomfortability for later. They want to still be in the contest. And it's like, I don't want to be knocked out with Davis Mills. I don't want to be knocked out with this stupid Steelers team. And so I think that's kind of the way people are playing this contest, and it's just kind of a product of the chalkiness of what's kind of happened. It's funny the way that Mike and I kind of look at things. We look at them a little different, which is cool because it's good that we're both on the show a lot because we kind of handle things a little different. He was hoping the Patriots would be lower. I was kind of hoping the Patriots would be higher. I'm kind of glad that they're this high, just strictly because I think there's such a good ticket later on that if teams don't lose on Sunday, and even if they do, like, it's only going to be a few percentage of the thing. I don't really want the people that are left to have this great ticket in the Patriots. They have the Jets, they have the Dolphins, they have the Giants coming up. So I want people to be kind of pushed onto some more uncomfortable situations. So I was kind of happy that it was at 44. I mean, once I'm on them and once they win, it's kind of irrelevant. So if it comes in at 38% versus 44, like now there's 6% of the entries. That's another 60 people that have a really good ticket available. I'd rather more of them just be pushed onto some uncomfortable spots later on.
Nick, if you can pull up the – oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was saying that's a really good point, Dave. You're exactly right, 100% on that. I think it's just because I took New England and I was open, but once New England wins, I was surprised that there was that high of a percentage on Baltimore, because once the chalk wins and gets through, I mean, I could see taking the Ravens if you have the Eagles, but I could also see, taking the Ravens if New England loses, because then it gives you a higher probability than to get through. But yeah, 9%, what was it, 9%, 8.8% on the Ravens. That's too high at this stage of the game with their future value and New England already winning.
Fair to say the Ravens folks are, I don't want to say the Saturday night losers because that can change really quick tomorrow, but they're maybe the folks that are the most disappointed with these numbers, because I feel like the reason you might go Ravens here and forego that great future value next week and maybe on Thanksgiving, depending if Burrow plays, is because you think it'll be low owned. Fair to say that the Ravens folks are a little disappointed with this, you think?
Yeah, but that's the thing that I think so many people and those who are tuning in kind of here's my thoughts on it, give you a little thing that hopefully will give you a competitive advantage. But once the Patriots lose, like now, I mean, once Thursday night is going to be so highly owned, you just kind of know that like your percentages are magnified. So you can basically take the fact that it's 9% and multiply it by 44% and add that to the 9%. You're basically looking at that now. It's like 13.5% of the remaining picks are on Ravens. So when they lose, you being more on an island has more dramatic effect than when they win. To Mike's point, that wasting the Ravens here, but yes, to answer your question, that yeah, they're obviously disappointed at that. I think the real winners here are probably the Texans. They probably have the least future value, and they came in at the lowest, at much lower than projection. That doesn't mean they're going to win or that I'd be thrilled if I had them, because I wouldn't be. I mean, they were a very scary click this week, but I think everybody was kind of seeing that same thing, that they were a scary click. And also just the fact that if you did use the Texans, I think you're winning, because there's only one real spot, and it's going to be a bottleneck spot with the Raiders like late in the season. And so if you didn't use them in that first Titans week and you didn't use them this week, you're really going to be pushed hard on them, or you're just going to bag them and not use them at all, which is kind of tough, obviously, since we have to go through 20 teams. So, yeah, I think you're a real winner if you use the Texans here, just because it gets you off that bottleneck and because you're on a smaller team, assuming that they get through. But as Saturday night winners, we don't necessarily know the results. We're just looking at the EV spot.
Correct.
So last week we saw the Panthers go down, and I think theoretically that means that this field is a little more sharp, because that was a little bit more of a square play. Do you guys see any evidence of that when you see these numbers? Nick, if you can pull it up again, if you don't mind. Do you see any evidence that this field has maybe gotten a little sharper compared to last week, or not necessarily?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've basically just reached the point that the people who are in on smaller number of entries are all chalk players, and then the rest of it is made up by people like Mike and myself and others who had a lot of entries, and we kept trying to be cute here and there and got clipped, but we would get through a couple on a chalk team or a couple on maybe one of the contrarians that didn't, and we've kind of just been plucked through, and now we're down to the small number of entries. But all the ones who were single entries and stuff, it's all the same mind, same group think, that they have the Patriots circled this week. They have the Chargers in week 13 that against the Raiders. They've got San Francisco in 15 circled, and or the Bucks or whatever. You basically got everybody's on a similar path, and that's kind of why it led to the Patriots here, because everybody just had this as their spot for the Patriots, same ways than they had the Rams a few weeks ago. And we're all just kind of moving through this contest as one organism. And you need one of those 40%ers to get clipped to kind of help change paths. Because let's say if the Patriots would have lost this week and 44% gone, well, now the people who have the Patriots left, they're going to make up a much larger percentage of the pool than they are now. Like the people who have the Patriots left now, I think it's 6% of the pool. But if they would have got clipped, it would have ended up being a much higher percentage of the people that are left, because those who faded, they're it's worth more.
Mike, walk us through where you landed with your Circa Survivor selections this week.
Yeah, for sure. Let me touch base on what David said. Is it's very difficult to do, and we discussed this in the past. If you're down to one entry, if you're the single bullet, you're supposed to take more risk. You only have so many opportunities to clip 40, 50% of the pool. When you have those opportunities, you have to take them. And then you double back on that team when nobody else has them. So you get them coming and you get them going. And so I know it's that tug and pull mentally and in your heart that you don't want it to end. But at the end of the day, you got to give yourself the best chance to win this thing, because this is a winner's take all pool, and you have to take more risk. We have multiple entries. We landed on the Patriots. We were kind of stuck on one entry within our matrix, the permutations, how we did. So we went Patriots on one, which, I mean, I really wasn't happy about, but it was our best spot to land. And then on our other pick, we were on the Packers. So we have the Packers to possibly clip us again. This was our last time they got a chance to take us out. They've kind of been our nemesis this year. Both coming and going, because they've held when we needed them to lose and they've lost when we needed them to win. And with the Packers, we knew they would have low ownership, and we just, obviously we made that decision prior. Once the Patriots won, we did discuss a couple other spots, just couldn't get comfortable with any games from a handicap standpoint. We believe the fair line in the Packers is not 7. We believe it's 5.5, but we'll still take it, and we'll take the low ownership and hope they can get it together. And Jameis Winston doesn't take us out with the 400 for TD game.
Mike, I share your Packers trauma. They took me out of Westgate, nicked me pretty good in Survivor, and I'm on them in Circa Survivor as well this week. I went Cowboys and Packers. David, where did you land this week?
Yeah, we took the Patriots. I know it's chalky and whatever, and we talk about that. And so I don't know if I've talked about it on this, but I've talked about it on different things. When I'm going to fade the chalk, there's 3 things that I look at. One, do I see a realistic path for the chalk for that team to lose? In this instance, the answer was no for me. The second thing is it worth, do I feel comfortable somewhere else? And my answer again was no. So I didn't feel comfortable somewhere else. And is it worth kind of saving them? And it was worth saving, but I just couldn't get comfortable anywhere else. And I didn't see a realistic path to them losing. So I just went ahead and ate it and moved on.
Gotcha. Good stuff. We have Sam here coming up. Nick, I'm going to wait. Okay. He says he's fixed with his audio. Excellent. Let's go ahead and bring him in. We're going to shift a little bit and start talking Grandissimo, because Sam is one of 6 people of the original 69 left in Circa Grandissimo. Sam, congratulations on that. Welcome to the show. Your first appearance on Saturday Night Sweat. How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad at all, man. Can you let us know where you landed this week for in Grandissimo?
Yeah, I think they posted all the stuff, but I'm on Patriots.
Nice. So you already got through? How's that feel to be through? Now you can just root for a little bit of carnage on Sunday.
Yeah, I just saw that they overlapped on Steelers. That's pretty nice.
You like that, right?
Of course.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Sam, talk to us about your season so far in Grandissimo. Give us some context. Did you just have one Grandissimo entry? Did you have any in Circa Survivor? Just kind of talk us through your season so far.
No, I played both of them.
Okay.
I don't even know which. Sorry, I just played poker all night. We're still playing right now, actually. I've been awake for like 2 days.
Gotcha. Understandable.
So I didn't see this morning. Did Houston come down? Did the line come down there? I expected it to be 1 Houston, 1 Steelers, and then they ended up overlapping. I don't know.
Yeah, it kept moving down, Sam. It went obviously at the beginning of the week at 7.5, blew through 7. It is now sitting at 6. In the contest, it's 6.5 for Circa Millions, but it's down to 6. And I could just tell with the way things were trending through the week, people were getting a little, they weren't, even though Mills pulled off the game last week and he's played well in the past, the Tennessee coming off the bye maybe scared some people. And, I just looking at Grandissimo as you do, obviously, you're probably more in depth into it. I thought somebody might bump over and take Baltimore. I know they had Detroit there sitting maybe for they could be on an island on that on Christmas. But with that being said, I don't blame the guy for moving over to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Baltimore was really possible just because it's kind of necessary in the next few weeks. But obviously, it'd be a good EV this week.
One thing that was interesting, you said that you were happy that they were both on Pittsburgh. You would rather have, let's say, Houston and Pittsburgh are equal chances of losing. You'd rather the 50% chance that you're down to 4 rather than 25% each on being down to 5.
Yeah, I think their EV's a bit worse overlapping.
You think that's better for you?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's better to be on an island if there's a chance to take it down this week. But with New England already losing, obviously, there's zero chance that they're moving on. That they're gonna win it this week. So it's either gonna be 5 or 4.
It doesn't have that much implication. Obviously, there's like potential injuries in the future and stuff. But when they take the same team, like if there's a spot for Houston, they're both gonna have it now. You know what I mean? Whereas if one blew it, it's like they're more likely to be on an island in the future as well. So not only do I get to answer them this week, but it's like if that spot comes up, I'm much more likely to be, they're not going to be spread out, which is optimal for them.
Yeah.
But also Christmas, I don't really think Christmas is going to happen in the Grandissimo. I think it's pretty unlikely that we get there.
Did you have any consideration in saving New England and playing somebody else, or were you just New England and let's move on?
I mean, because it was so likely I'd overlap with someone else, I just didn't really think I had an option. I think I had to go New England. I mean, looking at it, it's kind of split into like 2 little groups where 4 teams overlap a lot. I think they're all going to probably have Seattle next week or so. Obviously, there's games. I mean, there could be injuries. A lot could happen. But it's kind of like me and Dream Team are going to overlap a lot, and then the other 4 are going to overlap a lot. And I think that they have a better chance of winning. But I don't know if their EV is necessarily much higher just because they're all sharing so much,
Sure.
Right.
Sam, there were whispers this week that some people were interested in the chop. Some people were not interested in the chop in Grandissimo. Were you in the chop or the no chop camp?
I mean, I don't really love my team, so I'm not really opposed to it, but I mean, I kind of signed up to play, I enjoy it. So I'm not particularly interested in the chop, but I wasn't like the holdout or something. It's just, I don't know. There's some guy on Twitter that seemed really angry. He was just like screaming at everyone, like just posting crazy shit. I thought he had the weakest team. I thought he was kind of a weak player, the Cujo guy. So he seems disinterested in the chop, which I respect, but I also don't think he's a very good player. So it makes me not really want to chop.
Do you know who he is? Do you know who that is?
No, I saw he was posting. He's like a football handicapper. So I don't know. I don't know who he is.
I believe he won the 2020 Super Contest Gold. I think he won that. Dave, what year did you win the Super Contest?
The COVID year, whatever year the COVID year was.
2020, maybe he won the gold.
Yeah, it's not me. I haven't been the asshole on Twitter. Well, actually, I have been the asshole on Twitter, but
no,
I know, time, right, David? This time,
I know you're not Cujo, but I'm saying
I'm
I think he won the gold version of what you won at the Westgate.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think your poker experience and playing in tournaments and having to think a little bit different and forecast what people are going to do and things, you think that helps in Survivor? I mean, it obviously seems like Survivor has really taken off in our community as poker players. I mean, I know we've got big guys like Blez and you, and I'm not going to, out and name other people that haven't come out, but there are a lot of people in our world that have really gravitated towards Survivor. You think the skill sets are kind of overlapping?
I don't know about tournament experience, but definitely sports betting, and it's kind of, you're looking at EV in the short term and then also future EV. So just a lifetime of running EV sims is definitely useful for the Survivor.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think it has much overlap though.
Yeah, deciding like, well, I know that this is probably a chip EV call, but I can fold here and maybe get a better spot down the road where I was
gonna say that's where I kind of agree with what you're saying. I think early I took a lot of spots that weren't necessarily the best EV. I took a lot of good teams in spots where I thought maybe it was like the second best play or something, but it maximized my chance of getting to the end where I could try to make big moves. And I thought I would have an edge here. So I kind of wanted to maximize my chance of getting to where I can make the high EV plays.
I guess that's why you kind of say now that maybe your entry is maybe not as good as some others, because you were hoping for more carnage on some other weeks and they didn't quite materialize. So if they would have, you would have been in a little better spot.
Maybe that's what I mean, though. I didn't do anything too contrarian or crazy early. Like I said, I just wanted to maximize my chance of getting to the end so I could try to make the move. Like when I took Chicago, I don't think it was a great play. Like I lose EV, but if I saw everyone's entry, it's the best play, you know? Like I didn't want to overlap Carolina. I didn't want to be with everyone else. I mean, I had to take kind of a shitty team, but I think there'll be spots like that where you get a chance to not necessarily make EV, but save EV, you know? It's the same thing, but.
So is it safe to assume you've played in Circa before in the main, and have you done other survivor pools offline or in office pool and places like that?
Yeah, I went really deep in one. I was doing it for my friend. I'd never done it before. I didn't play that year, and they played, and I just did it. It went well. We went very deep and did not win, but I think we got fifth. It was whenever I was trying to chop. And anyway, I kind of got addicted after that and played a bunch of them. I've done well. There's some big ones, like 50K buy-ins and private ones and stuff, and I've run very hot in all these. Yeah, I mean, it's going well again this year.
Nice.
Sam, you mentioned this thing probably won't get to Christmas. I think you're probably right about that. It looks like we're going to get to Thanksgiving, though, more than likely. What are your what teams do you have available for Thanksgiving right now?
I believe I have to take Philly.
Okay. And they play last. They play on actually not Thanksgiving, on Black Friday. So I'd imagine you're liking that, the fact that the one team you have available, the one favorite you have available goes last.
I mean, when you have more options, that's amazing. Like the week where Denver was the Thursday game, I had the option to swap. Like if they lost, I was going to maybe do something bold, but they came back and won 10-7 that week. So I just kind of went with what I had to do. But
that was the game.
Again, I don't think it's that exciting just because I don't really have many options, you know.
Gotcha. And what's your confidence level in the Eagles against the Bears on that Black Friday game? How you feeling about it?
I'm not really handicapping any NFL games this year, so I don't have too much of an opinion. I try to trust the line. I mean, some of the books are a little sharper than others, and I'll put little leans in there, but realistically, I just try to trust the line. So I don't have like a strong opinion about the game outside of Pinnacle and all the, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough,
Sure.
for sure. Sam, anything else you want to add here before we let you go and get back to playing cards?
Not really. I mean, it's fun. I'm glad these guys don't want to chop. It makes it easier for me. I don't want to be like the one guy that doesn't want to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not really opposed. I don't really care. I mean, I'm enjoying it. So I'm glad it's a lot of big gamblers out there.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good
Thanks
luck,
so much.
Sam.
Thanks
Yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
for coming on the
Good luck,
show.
Sam.
Best
Thanks
of
for
luck
coming
this
on,
weekend, man.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Take care. All right, good stuff there from Sam Soverall, and we're going to go ahead and bring in Alex Brown as promised, also known as Browna, 2022 Circa Survivor champion. Actually, the year that Mike Buckmiller won, Alex shared that big check or a separate check with Mike's team. Alex, welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on. Doing well. Just enjoying some college football here, and glad to be on with you.
Awesome, man. We're so glad to have you on the show. Your first appearance here on Saturday Night Sweat as well. Break down for us this season. How has it gone for you? How many entries do you have left in Circa Survivor?
Sure. So I have 5 under the Brown A alias. I do have one more where my dad came and put 2 entries in his name, one of which is still alive. I've essentially
Nice.
been of 6 total that I'm still working with. So yeah, six live. We'll see how it goes from here. Taking some of the special week teams and strong teams overall, but certainly happy with the entry total. We'll see how it goes.
6 left. So where did you land this week?
So the 4 that had New England available went ahead and went on them like most people. So I got through with those, and then on my remaining 2, have 1 on the Steelers and 1 on the Falcons.
Nice. Good stuff. Was there any consideration? You know, David mentioned earlier in the show, I don't know if you heard or not, he reminded us that the Patriots have 2 pretty sweet spots at the very end of the season against the Jets and Dolphins. Did you give any consideration to holding a Patriots back for that reason?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I looked at that, that they have a soft schedule. I think it really just came into the fact, and of course, also other negative, I knew that it would be the chalk, but I just thought that the difference there, taking the 13-point home favorite versus everything else that was available. I mean, there were a few others that I liked reasonably well, but it felt like, I thought that the Texans the number might be a little bit higher, so I felt like we need to get off of there. And so, it was a consideration, but I went ahead and went with it. And I just thought, I don't know if I want to be on the back end of this season for the Patriots. It seems like they've done so well. Hard to see a few of those teams beating them, but at some point we'll see if their winning streak comes to an end. I was glad to go ahead and in some ways be done with them.
You mentioned that Texans number surprising you a little bit. If you had a magic wand right now, Alex, and you were able to manipulate your entries and change them around, would you do anything differently now that you've seen them come out, or would you stay right where you're at?
It's a good question. Falcons I would stick with. Low, I think I had 43 on there, and I just I like that one. Part of Texans I thought being higher. I thought Steelers might be a little bit lower, but I'd probably still keep it. It's just because low future value on the Steelers, and I thought that number would be a little bit lower on them, but I think I'd probably stick with what I did.
Gotcha. As we look at the schedule this week outside of the Patriots game, I feel like there's a lot of narratives around all of these different teams, like reasons they're going to lose. The Texans have the backup quarterback. The Steelers game is really windy, and they lost to Cincinnati earlier this year. Packers have lost 2 straight. The Ravens, it's their 3rd straight road game. The Falcons, they lost to the Panthers 30-0 earlier this year. Of those narratives or of those teams, which one kind of scares you the most that you think actually has some legitimacy to it?
Yeah, it's a good point. I kind of like the contrarian spot on the 2 I took, and the fact that they'd lost earlier in the year, especially with the Falcons there. I mean, it was 30-0, but I think the yardage was pretty even. I think like total yards, Falcons had more, but a little bit pretty even per play. And I thought, the Steelers I think are pretty bad, but I think with the Bengals defense, I kind of like that spot too. So I kind of like the spot of them having lost to those teams earlier and playing at home, being a favorite. Pretty neutral on the Packers. I mean, it's hard, Giants with Winston and so many injuries. It feels like maybe a good spot for the Packers there. I was a little bit, the other thing I guess surprised with the numbers. I was surprised the Ravens, that so many people were on the Ravens. Not so much in that I'm worried about that game, although maybe a little bit, but just that of course, it's Thanksgiving, but I would have thought if you weren't taking them for Thanksgiving, would have saved them for next week when they're home against the Jets, and what seems like, even certainly they'll be a much bigger favorite there. So I was a little bit surprised that number got so high. I mean, Cleveland does seem to have a pretty big split between how they play at home versus road. So I guess maybe that one probably, at least was surprised that that number was that high.
Yeah, you bring up that Falcons. Sorry, real quick. You bring up that Falcons-Panthers game earlier this year and how it was actually closer than the score indicated. The Panthers had a pick 6 and then another interception that was returned for like 60 yards. That seemed like the big difference in that game for sure. What were you going to say, David?
I was just going to say, Alex and I have shared a lot of the same thoughts. I said a lot of the things that you did, and if I would have had picks that didn't have the Patriots available, I would have looked at the same 2 spots that you did, and exactly what I was thinking. I like the Falcons as a great contrarian play. I really like them this week, and you can use them this week at extremely low ownership, which kind of also get you off of them at the end of the season when they're playing the Saints, which is where, like, I don't want to be at the end of the thing anyway with if there's 32 people left with 19 of them being on the Falcons anyway. So you might as well use them this week. I think it's a great spot. I mean, this is really a spot, as something that Mike and Russ say a lot is, if they don't win this week, then I really don't want them in the future anyway. And it's kind of like, I feel like this is a fulcrum point for the Falcons. If they don't win this game, that Raheem Morris probably gets fired and this team kind of quits. So I think this is a spot that I think they rally and they show that their coach really like their coach and they want to play for him. And I think this is a great revenge spot versus Carolina, who kind of is been a fraud all year. I mean, what is this? How is this line 3.5 when they were just 13.5 at the Packers 2 weeks ago? Just because of that result, we're going to say that the Falcons are 10 points worse than the Packers are. And I don't think that's realistic. I think the Falcons on a neutral site versus the Packers would probably be like 4.5 or something. So I think this line is pretty low. This was my favorite play in Circa Millions too, is the Falcons. And so I think you're on a good spot there, Alex. And, good luck to you on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
I'm curious for all of you guys. I love asking questions about weather because I think it's fascinating with Circa Survivor. A lot of wind, not so much rain and snow, but a lot of wind in some of these games. The Steelers game is a big one, the Packers game as well. Did that influence any of your decisions this week? Anybody that wants to chime in on that?
For me, not really. I also looked at the Falcons. I also like the spot, but when I had the ability to take the Packers, it's just a better play. I thought, obviously both teams would have not a lot of ownership, but the Packers at that minus 350 was just too juicy to take at that point. I don't really want to use them anywhere else, so this was my spot to take them. But as we spoke last week, as it relates to weather, cutting my teeth as a fantasy player and not wanting to get pushed off certain players. If I do look at that all, I'm going to look at the line. What team can run the football better? What team could stop the run? I think Pittsburgh won't have any problem running the football this week. Cincinnati obviously has some offensive line issues. If Cincinnati's going to win, it's going to be because their guys on the outside eat. So the more wind, the more it's going to lean towards Pittsburgh, which is probably why the Grandissimo entries moved in that direction. I'm thinking if they're thinking ball at any point, but yeah, there at some point you don't want the weather to push you off, but you do have to, it does have to go into the matrix for sure, and decide where you want to go ultimately. Yeah,
I think this is what they call double counting. So the line is projected based on all the factors, which is injuries and weather and all the things. And now you're double counting. The line is already factored in that it should be a lower scoring game because of the wind. That maybe one team is better off in a win situation than the other team. So now you're just double counting it. The line should have already factored that into it. So I try not to totally do it. Obviously, I'm less of a numbers person. I mean, that's the great thing about the show. Sometimes we have guys on like Brett Ritchie and Sam Soverall who are like, the line is the line. That's the way that I view it. And then I'm more on the ball knower side, or I think I know ball type side, which is kind of the things that you talk about, Tony, which is, does the wind scare me because this team doesn't throw the ball, it throws the ball better versus run, who's a heavier personnel and things like that. So you got to kind of be careful if you're on the ball knower side, though, to not double count things and deduct it twice.
I think that's a good point. The only pushback I want to say is the total went down in that game, 43 down to 42. So I think it's possible we wake up tomorrow morning and the line shifts as well. You're not going to have the total drop 3-4 points and then have the line stay the same. So,
For sure.
So in that case, because the deadline's a little earlier, it wouldn't be double counting. But very good point of yours on the double counting thing. Alex, before we let you go, since you are a past champion, I do want to ask you, can you give us any insight into sort of your routine? How do you get from point A to point Z and land on a pick? I don't need any secret sauce from you. Don't share any secrets. But what do you think you might do a little differently than the average Survivor player?
Yeah, sure. Good question. I mean, a lot of it is probably not that different. I mean, I know, a lot of places, a lot of sharp players are always trying to get off or in most cases, the most commonly picked team. A lot of times I will still go with the commonly picked team. I try to pick my spots and see, the best places. I mean, last week was an example where I think in a lot of ways it was pretty easy to, I guess you figured the Panthers are going to get pretty high. I didn't know they would be the highest. I thought that was a fairly easy one relatively to get off of. But in general, pretty conservative stuff, map it out with teams available, best teams, and see who's going to be the chalk. And, at this point with multiple entries, trying to do what I can with concentrating picks to really try to play to win and not spread out my picks too much. I mean, tomorrow's a little bit of a, I guess, example where I didn't do that, putting one on each team as opposed to 2 on 1, but had the rest of the other 4 I had earlier on New England. So, trying to, at this point, especially with my entries having had with the special week teams having used a lot of those teams, I'm trying to probably concentrate to get to the special weeks. And especially for Christmas, looking like if I were to get there, maybe having multiple entries to possibly split one, something like that. So that's sort of what I'm looking at this point is really paying special attention to, as you have to those special week teams.
I know a lot of us have kind of boxed ourselves, and you sound like you might have done that into Christmas, to having to choose one side of the Commanders-Cowboys game. Is that kind of I think a lot of us, having used the Chiefs in that 1 week, and then Detroit, to get through, to have dodged some bullets, Detroit was the usual pivot spot on the most deadly of weeks of Survivor. So I think a lot of us have used Detroit and we've used Kansas City. So we've kind of done similar, where we've all kind of boxed ourselves into choosing sides on that. Would you ever consider playing both sides of that game, or would you probably just, if you had multiple entries, just pick a side and pray, maybe do a off book hedge or something? Or
yeah, no, I would definitely consider playing both sides of that game, for sure. And so, yeah, I'm basically in that situation. I have one of my entries that has Detroit and one that would still potentially have Kansas City. Two that have Kansas City, but one would probably, if they make it, have to take them for Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I mean, if hopefully I'm fortunate enough to get a single entry to Christmas, but if I were to have multiple and still be in that position, then yeah, I would definitely consider it, especially if that was the only game I had.
David, I appreciate you bringing up the fact that a lot of us are boxed in on Christmas. I think there was an interesting thing that not a lot of people were talking about this week related to Houston. If you have Kansas City available, some people are considering Kansas City the week before Christmas against the Titans. If you have the Texans and you like the Texans against the Raiders, you could then push Kansas City to Christmas if you feel comfortable with the Texans. So big implications this week with those people who took Houston don't have that option. So I felt like if you came into this week with Houston and Kansas City available, you could kind of think of things a little bit differently, just throwing that out there. But Alex, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate your insight and sharing your journey so far this season. Hopefully we can have you on again in the future, brother.
Yeah, be glad to. Thanks a lot, guys, for having me on, and best of luck to all of y'all's entries this weekend as well.
Sounds good, man. Good luck, brother.
Yeah, good luck, Alex.
All right, thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in not James Sullivan this time. That's who's usually in this time slot to talk about the Survivor Sweat Marketplace. We got producer Nick instead to talk about the Marketplace. How you doing, Nick?
Good. Well, thanks for having me on my own live stream.
We can't help it. You're here anyways. I love it.
I have a statement for you guys directly from James. So I'm just going to read this out and we'll see you guys' reactions. So the Marketplace stats for this week were 150 plus listings, which has to be some sort of record. It was always record setting a couple weeks ago when we had over 100 entries on the Marketplace, let alone over 150. The ones that had pick control available sold at a 1.3x multiple of EV. And the average price for those entries with pick control was about 24.5 grand. And then the next one down is the ones with minority shares. Those entries sold at a 1.7x multiple of EV. And their average price was $313 per point.
Nice.
So
good stuff. Good stuff.
There are the numbers from James. Yeah.
Nick, just to clarify, was it 150 listed in the Marketplace or 150 sold in the Marketplace? Do you know?
150 plus listings. Sorry if I said the other one, but
no, you said
yeah,
it. You said it right. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it correctly. Okay, good stuff. So 150 in there. You guys heard they are still going for a little bit more than they're worth right now. So it's a little tiny bit of a seller's market. But guys, I think we're starting to see that phenomenon that we've talked about several times on this show, where it's going to start to become a buyer's market, because it was higher than 1.3 when we talked to James a couple weeks ago. So it seems like that number's coming down. Maybe in a week or two, you're going to start getting some bargains if you got the money to buy on Survivor Sweat. So something fascinating to keep an eye on for sure. Mike and David, have you guys peeked at all at the Marketplace? You guys keeping an eye on it?
I generally do. This week has been an extremely busy week for me, so I have not. But yeah, and also kind of got a little lazy with having the Patriots. It was just kind of like, okay, I'm on to next week. Let's I didn't
Rub
even
it in,
really
David. Rub it in.
didn't even go hard in figuring out projections because didn't matter to me. I was already done. So yeah, we got our feet up and we got our head back and let's sweat some Aaron Rodgers, Davis Mills chalk this week.
Yeah, no, I always keep an eye on it. Russ and I do a weekly pod on Wednesday, so I try to inform the listeners as to how many entries are available, what percentages, price per point, if there's any Grandissimo entries, and 2 popped on there this week. One was offering 1% at like 16,000, just over 16,000. I think it was 16,700. And then there was one that was offering 16% at 125,000. So just over 20K a point. And so when I have entries in there now, my own personal entries, although I'm looking, I'm just not ready to make a play, although I probably should now to see some different paths, but I just don't know if the motivation's there. But if somehow we get clipped, we're really motivated. Last year we bought back in, we jumped on 2 entries and helped get them to the finish line to week 18. And we were on the Falcons game that lost for that. But yeah, no, I will be a buyer if I'm out. I'm just hoping that it's more of a contrarian buy than just one that I need to.
I wonder if the marketplace has really dictated the fact that we have had such a heavy chalk run out. Not even necessarily run out, because obviously what we pick can't control the way that the games end up. But the percentages have been coming in always just a little bit higher on the chalk teams than people wanted to see. We heard Alex and we've heard a lot of other guests say that they've kind of depleted a lot of their best teams. Sam, said that he used some of his best teams. We've used the Baltimores, we've used the Kansas Cities, we've used the things. I wonder if the marketplace is influencing some people to just say, screw future value. Let me get as far as I can so that I can try to monetize this. And how can we, as a smart player of Survivor, neutralize that by thus in the future maybe going anti chalk, knowing that the chalk is coming in heavier in the first half of the season. And I'm talking about for years down the road while we do this. I think we're all invested in this Survivor space, and this isn't our last year doing this. So just as players, and obviously if you're watching this, you love it as well, how can you best take advantage of the trend that we're seeing, that people are saying future value be damned, let's try to get through.
Yeah. So David, to your point, Russ and I had this conversation specifically as it relates to the Grandissimo. We thought we'd have a higher edge because the way we play versus people we thought would be trying to survive and sell pieces on the way. We quickly realized that in some cases that was 100% correct, and in most cases, people that were coming in with the 100K buy-in weren't looking to sell shares, and so it was a good feeling out first year in that, and we thought so as well in the main, but I guess because of Grandissimo, we were so focused on that short tournament format. And we took some contrarian spots, and we made it pretty far, but we didn't obviously make it to here. So,
yeah, David, I really agree with your theory. I think that it is making it a little bit of a chalkier pool. I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you a couple people that I know personally. I heard them say things like, I was going to do 5 entries, but because the marketplace exists, I'm going to do 8, and I'm going to plan to have 2 really chalky and sell them mid-year. So that is absolutely happening. I think it is having an impact, and it's fascinating to see how it'll play out in the future as well. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, The link to the marketplace is in the description for people that are watching on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's in the description, and then I have the marketplace open here, so I will throw it in the Twitter chat if you want to check it out if you're watching on X. So
Awesome. Sounds good, Nick. We appreciate you hopping in and sort of substitute teaching here for James. Appreciate it.
Easy.
Let's go ahead and bring Mitch Moss in if we can. Mitch, welcome back to the show, brother. 1 entry alive in Westgate, 1 entry alive in Circa Survivor. Congrats on making it this far. How you feeling, brother?
Thank you. Good here on a Saturday night because, well, we were on the Patriots in the Circa contest on Thursday, so there will be no sweat tomorrow. Just hoping for carnage, you know.
Congratulations. And Mitch, I would say it's a good week to be rooting for carnage. As I said, I'm going to kind of repeat myself from earlier on the show, but you've got the Packers who have lost 2 straight. You've got several games impacted by very high wins. It seems like a good week to kind of put the feet up, know that you got one in the clubhouse, and root for losses.
Yeah, and I think this also ties into, trying to have a path and then sticking with it sometimes. That's not always going to be the case because, for week number 11, had there been a bunch of other games that jumped off the page that could have been possibilities, maybe the Patriots were not our play, but we did have New England circled going back, early on in the season. Once we realized, hey, they're pretty damn good. The schedule sets up very nicely for them. When's the optimal time to use them? And we had week 11 circled. And then once we got here, we were fortunate enough to get here. We just spent a day or so talking about it. Like, do we get cute? No, I don't think so, because this is who we wanted. And I hate the week other than that. So,
yeah.
So we stuck with it. And sometimes you're going to have to be on the most popular team. That's the way I look at it anyway. And you survive in advance at that point.
So Mitch, the more years you play this, and when you map it out and you look at the optimal spot for you, do you think that a lot of players are doing the same, and you may want to in future years think about being contrarian from your map, or do you just stick to what you do and you're not worried about what everybody else is doing at the time?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, when you get 18,000 plus people in there, and we're still at 1,000 right now entering the week, I think a lot of people probably have that same plan of attack. And I'm looking, I still have like all 10 of my entries on a whiteboard, and I haven't deleted or I haven't erased any of it yet. And I'm looking back at some of the entries that I had that made it to week 5. I mean, I used garbage to get to week 5. And I never wanted to be on any of the popular plays. And then guess what I did? With 5 of my entries, I was on the Rams against the 49ers. And, that didn't feel right at the time. Didn't feel good on some of those entries because I'm like, this is atypical of what we've done to this whole point. And now we're going to take them and, feeling the pain on that one still more than a month later. But I guess now on this ticket that I have at this point, I'm also looking at it. I've used good teams here in recent weeks, but like I had a lot of trash on that one too to begin the year. So at some point I'm going to have to start picking up some of these better teams, I guess.
What do you have available for Thanksgiving?
I have Baltimore and I have Philadelphia available for Thanksgiving. Beautiful. On this one.
So I guess next week is your line of demarcation. You make your Thanksgiving decision next week, I would assume. I mean, the way that I'm approaching my ones that also have that is next week I decide, do I go Baltimore then Philly, or do I take something else and then Baltimore and then Philly 2 weeks later? So it's kind of like you're basically making a 3-week path. You're kind of making that decision next week. Is that the way you're kind of approaching it, or have you already kind of basically, without giving us the information, since obviously you don't need to this week, but have you made your 3-week path between Baltimore, Philly, and X, or are you going to kind of wait and see how you're feeling next week and kind of make your Baltimore decision at that point?
Well, so to be completely honest, to go back and tie in having the Patriots part of that path, I have it right in front of me right now. The path that my buddy and I created a couple of weeks back to get to like week 15 or week 16, but that can obviously change. And that would have included who we're going to use then on Thanksgiving or Black Friday to get to that point. We also have, I'm sure, David, you have KC left as well on those tickets.
I think I have one KC. I have KC available on the one where I've already used Baltimore and Detroit, and I don't have KC on the one where I do have. I basically have either KC or Baltimore available. So
Yeah,
and I have Philly on both. So it's kind of like my line is, moved a touch forward because the Baltimore selection is kind of taken out of my hands a little bit.
Yeah. This ticket that I'm on still has KC, but I never really had a plan on using them on Thanksgiving. That would have been more, I think, specifically. I mean, I hate the Christmas Day slate. That to me is way worse than Thanksgiving. Let me knock on some wood right now. I don't want to jinx anything, but I basically don't like any of those games for the most part. But the Chiefs, if we get that far, I think we kind of need to have them in our back pocket.
Agreed.
David, your point about next week being intimately connected to Thanksgiving and people kind of needing to make their decision now, I think you could say something similar for the people that have the Lions available. 239 have the Lions available right now. 179 of them have the Lions and Ravens available. 188 have the Lions and Eagles available. And the Lions, of course, as we know, have some value on Christmas as well. So some people are going to need to make some decisions next week that are going to impact that down the road. But I have in my notes here, guys, Mitch reminded me of this when he mentioned having those entries that have used garbage teams. I have for you right in front of me what I believe to be the best alive Circa Survivor entry. It's owned by a guy named Jet with John. And let me read you some of the teams he's used on this one entry. He's used the Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, the Saints. He's already used the Texans and Arizona all on one entry. How does that sound?
Damn.
Yeah.
That makes me feel inadequate.
Sounds like a guy who's got his hand over fire a lot, and it's time. Might be time for him to pull back. He's got like all these good teams left. No reason to play with fire anymore.
Well, he takes the Patriots this week, so he's taking your advice, David. He's pulling back this week, but here's what blows my mind. That Jets pick was last week. So he had this beautiful entry that already had used New Orleans, the Raiders, and the Browns, and he said, fuck it, I'm going with the Jets last week. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Incredible. Man, oh, man. Mitch, back to you, my friend. Talk to me a little bit about Westgate. We focus on Circa in this show, but that Westgate prize pool is pretty sweet. $5,000 entry. If you can remind me, how many people are left in that one right now?
It is down to 8 on that one. So I also had the Patriots on Thursday night along with 5 others. So 6 people got passed this week. The other 2, one is on Baltimore tomorrow and one is on Pittsburgh on the other one.
Gotcha. Okay. So similar to Circa Grandissimo, we've got a Steelers entry as well. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, you got any predictions for tomorrow in terms of, is it going to be a carnage-filled week? I know you want carnage. You're rooting for carnage, but do you honestly think it's going to be? What are your thoughts on the percent that's going to get knocked out tomorrow?
Prediction, pain. Well, I mean, I thought we were going to get the carnage last week, and we did quite a bit. Like I have wanted nothing to do with Carolina at all. That was the ultimate spot where you want a really kind of crappy team to become popular, and then you want to avoid it and hope like hell they put up a stink bomb, and that's, got lucky there with that taking place. So will we get carnage back-to-back weeks? I could see it. Like, I mean, to me, the Green Bay game. Now they're not. What are they on? Was it 88? I think selections or something like that in the Super Bowl.
99.
99.
Yep.
Okay, so that's that's a pretty decent chunk at this point.
Yep.
If Jackson Dart was playing tomorrow, I would absolutely love the Giants to win the game outright. I would have a huge bet on them. He's not, obviously. This game to me, this could be a Green Bay blowout, or the Giants could win in like 4. You could pitch me on anything in Green Bay and New York, and I will buy it. And that means that there are, I think, a couple of ways where the Giants can actually win the game, because you're going to get some bad with Jameis Winston. I mean, I think all agree on that. But the guy also is capable of giving us a little bit of good. And I don't buy this Packers team. And, the Eagles defense is awesome. They're going to be a unit to to be definitely afraid of down the stretch. But Jordan Love in that game again, and LaFleur, the play calling and the decision making, they just don't do it for me, and they go down tomorrow. The other one is Houston and Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is as hideous as it gets. How good is Davis Mills? He was really good for one quarter last week. The problem here is that Tennessee is taking on a defense that is just insane. So that's going to be a tough one to overcome, I think.
If you had not had the Patriots available, where do you think that you would have landed this week?
Good question.
Let me make sure I'm not getting my contest entries screwed up. Well, honestly, Baltimore probably would have been very top of the list because they're still available for us. Did I use Pittsburgh on this one? Pittsburgh's available. No, we used Pittsburgh on this one. I don't think I would have used Green Bay. It probably, looking overall at the list, it would have been Baltimore. I'll tell you, I think I maybe would have made a case for Miami tomorrow in Madrid. Although I don't like playing those early games over in Europe.
Yeah, talk to me about that Falcons spot, Mitch. Traveling back from overseas, no bye week after the international game. We talked earlier about how that 30-0 score earlier this season against the Panthers was pretty deceiving. The game was actually a lot closer than the score indicated. How would you feel if you were on the Falcons tomorrow and had to trust them?
Actually, that probably would have been near the top of the list as well. That 30-0 score. How many times are you going to get a 30-0 like shutout in the league? That's going to be a little misleading, like that one was, and that certainly qualifies. And Michael Penix is they gave Indianapolis a run for the money last week. Probably should have won the game. They played very well for most of the game against New England. Could have won that one as well. And now they get to come back home to take on a team in Bryce Young. Bryce Young's passing prop at last check was like 165.5. He's thrown for 200 yards one time this year.
Oh my Lord!
If Dowdle doesn't run for like 125 yards, that team is screwed pretty much every single week. And I do like Penix a little bit, although the head coach there, I am not a fan of whatsoever, and he could screw up anything at any given time. But I would probably be okay with using Atlanta tomorrow.
Mitch, I like to check in with you as the season goes on and just ask you about some of these teams. Can you give me a team that you think is kind of a fraud right now, that other people, maybe they have a winning record or people might be relying on them in Circa Survivor at some point that you're like, I don't want to touch that team with a 10-foot pole?
Well, Green Bay's at the top of the list. But Green Bay's also the type of team that, they could beat Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. But I just, we've seen that before. We saw their A game against a really good Detroit team, and then we've seen them blow games against the Browns, lose at home as a 13-point favorite to Carolina. I'm all in on both teams out of the West, Seattle and the Rams. I think both that game tomorrow is just absurdly good.
Yep.
I don't know what to make about New England. Vrabel's doing a really good job, but the schedule, guys, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, going into the year is one of the easiest, and it keeps getting easier because the teams are actually worse on the schedule than we thought going in, and probably Buffalo in their same division. If Josh Allen doesn't crush it every single game, they have problems.
And I want to ask you about the Bengals because massive Survivor implications, the fact that they're right now the dog on Thanksgiving against the Ravens. What can Burrow, if he comes back, do for this team? Like, Flacco's actually playing well, so it's not like Burrow's going to be replacing a terrible quarterback. Burrow doesn't play defense, but how much better do the Bengals get with Burrow under center?
Well, give me the date when Joe Burrow would be coming back. Is he back for Thanksgiving?
There's talks of it being an outside chance of him being back for Thanksgiving. I don't know if we have an exact date yet, and you guys can chime in too if you've heard otherwise.
He's
back in practice, right?
Yeah, he's verbally spoken to the media and said that is the game that he's pinpointing. He obviously understands what it's going to take for them to get to the playoffs, and so. But whether or not he'll be cleared, that's a whole different thing.
Right.
But he's pushing to be ready for that game.
Yeah. So let's say that he is back, and we all know that the week of Thanksgiving, doesn't that tilt like week 13A in the direction of Philadelphia big time? But I mean, you asked a great question, Tony. Flacco's been really good, and he was there beating Pittsburgh. So is Burrow that much? Would he be the deciding factor? Like, would a big group of people say, man, I was thinking about the Bengals, but I'm not going to use him because of Flacco. Now Burrow's back. I got to use him.
I think they shouldn't be thinking like that, but I think people will, because there's so much name value that comes with Burrow that I think people might fall into that trap of being too scared of the Bengals on Thanksgiving.
To that point, that might dictate those that have them both. People might be on Baltimore next week or be prior, and then now the chalk's going to lean towards Philadelphia. So I mean, that might dictate that too.
And Mike, let me jump in here. 711 have the Ravens available. 822 have the Eagles available. 562 have both the Eagles and Ravens available. So what you just said applies to 56% of the remaining pool. It's going to be fascinating to see how these next couple weeks.
I think this week is very, very telling for what's going to happen in Thanksgiving, because you have two teams that are scheduled to be the chalk go against, the Bengals and the Bears, both of which are small underdogs this week. If the Bears come out and look really good and they take care of business against Minnesota, maybe that kind of tilts people more towards the Ravens. Now, if you have the Bears come out and they give up 8 sacks versus this Brian Flores defense, Caleb's not the real thing. They're giving up 28 points to JJ McCarthy, and the Bengals find a way to upset Pittsburgh, and now there's a chance that Burrow comes back. I think that may tilt. So I think a lot of the ownership may be dictated by what we see in those two games that don't even involve the two teams that you're deciding between, the Ravens or the Eagles, based on just their opponents, what the Bengals and what the Bears look like this particular week.
Yeah, and next week, Seattle has low ownership. And so I think whoever does have them both, the Ravens, not to be redundant, I think they fire on them versus the Jets, and that, again, that could dictate it right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. I got a list of questions here for you, Mitch. I want to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Oh, got to ask you about Dallas. What do you think? What would you set the odds at for Dallas being a favorite on Christmas? I know it's a tough question to ask. There's so many variables. Is Jaden Daniels going to be playing or not? I think it's looking like Jaden Daniels will be back by then, if I had to guess right now. They're saying that he's going to be able – it's his non-throwing arm. He's going to be maybe back by then. What are the chances of Dallas being a favorite on Christmas?
Well, how many guys are back on the Washington defense as well? Dallas closed at home around 1.5, and that was October 19th when they won 44-22.
Nice data point.
I mean, the Washington defense, Paulie kept bringing this up during the week. I think if they lose by 21 plus tomorrow, it's the 4th straight game. That's the most, I think, since 1965. That's how bad this Washington team is right now.
That's brutal.
It's crazy when you think about when we all mapped everything out. Washington was the clear Christmas chalk. And I think that's kind of has dictated how a lot of these people are here today in Survivor, is they had Washington as the chalk. So they felt comfortable using Detroit and they felt comfortable using Kansas City because they had Washington in their pocket. And a lot of those people, as much as it sucks to have Washington be the pick that you had designed for that Christmas slot, some of these people wouldn't even be here because those weeks that you used Detroit and those weeks you used Kansas City, you probably avoided some chalky losses because if my memory serves me correct, multiple weeks that Detroit was the pivot game. That was the one that kept you alive because you didn't have somebody who lost. That was a pivotal part. So even though you're kind of sad that you're at Christmas and you were depending on Washington, odds are you probably wouldn't have made it if you didn't use some of these other teams.
Yeah, last week specifically, we had some entries on Denver, and we pivoted and then took Lions. and it was almost that trifecta. It was almost the beautiful survivor play, because you had the Bills go down, you had the Panthers go down, and ever so close, you had the Bears were so close to going down. You were going to get that 2% chance that all three of them go down right around your entry. And to David's point, now we don't have the Lions, but we're actually alive because of that. Yes, we didn't take the Bears, but if we would have had Bills in our pocket, we'd have probably taken them, would have never taken the Panthers. But again, to David's point, sometimes like you're there and you're just happy to be there. And we actually discussed this on our show, and we look ahead at those lines for Christmas. Last week was the first time that Dallas was actually the favorite for that game. They went up to 51%. And then just the talk of Daniels possibly coming back flipped it back to 53% for the Commanders. So I think any way you slice it, that game's going to be a coin flip or right around a coin flip, unless there's some more injuries or a team decides that they're just out of it, like the Commanders, and they decide that Daniels isn't going to come back. And but who knows? I don't think anybody's warm and fuzzy playing the Cowboys there. But if you're there, you might have to take them, and it's going to be a tough game to hedge too, because again, it might be that 55-45, it might be that 53-47, and then you're going to have to go to the window with a lot more money as opposed to another type of a hedge.
Well, I think also the fact that there's a lot of teams that are boxed into using one of those games just ensures that we're probably going to have a larger chop than people anticipate, because the way that you get down to the really small numbers is when one of these holiday teams that are chalky get clipped. And that happens a lot during the year. But if you have 140 entries on Washington and 140 entries on Dallas, like, you're just ensuring that 140 get through. Yeah, you're losing some, but for us to get down to 8 winners or 4 winners or 12 winners, you really need that giant clip. And it's not going to happen on Christmas, because there's going to be a large number of people that are going to get through on that Washington-Dallas game. It's just, we don't know which side it's going to be, but if it's equal number on both sides, it's going to be a large number.
100%. And we discussed that this would be the year that those teams tied or something. Because it's such a close game. I mean, you got to get the tie, and it's a horrible price, but you got to do it. And but yeah, just what would the odds be? You got that big of a group on both sides, and then it lands on that tie. That would just be unreal.
Mitch, I want to ask you about the Buffalo Bills before we get out of here. But Mike, you reminded me when you brought up how close that Bears game was last week. Do you guys realize that if the Bears game went differently last week, they lose, and the Broncos had lost on Thursday, which could have happened. Remember, that one was close too, that there would have been a winner already in Grandissimo. The Dream Team would have won it last week if those two outcomes, which were very close, had just been shifted. But Mitch, I want to get back to you here and ask you about the Bills. I've got the Bills available on one of my Circa Survivor entries. I don't know if I can trust this team anymore after what I saw last week against the Dolphins. Can I just brush that off and say, hey, it was a divisional game against a team that knows them, humid weather down in Miami, or should I be concerned about Buffalo moving forward?
I don't know, man. Like, when you look at their resume so far this year, yes, they came back to beat Baltimore on that Sunday night game 1. They were buried, and Baltimore blew that game.
Yep, the fumble.
They also, getting ready for Kansas City, credit to them. That was an A game performance. Their defense was terrific in that spot. So I'm not going to take anything away from them there. However, they also beat the Jets early on. Miami, that was a closer game than people remember. That was on a Thursday night. They beat the Saints. That game was tight in the third quarter. Then they lost to the Patriots. That game on Monday night against the Falcons, they were never in the game. Blown out last week. They've had a lot of bad games so far this year. And I don't think it's going to go well for them next Thursday at Houston. Remember, Josh Allen was 9 for 30 in the game last year, and they were down 20-3. They couldn't do anything against that defense, and C.J. Stroud kept the Bills in the game. That might have been one of the worst games he's ever played. So, and they got tough games coming up yet on the schedule. I think there's an angle here where they could miss the playoffs, and I would not even be stunned.
Oh, wow. We got to look up those odds and see what those odds are, because I bet you can get a nice juicy number on that, Mitch. Wow.
Yeah, well,
that's bold.
Speaking of playoffs, I mean, early in this, right around now, you're starting to look and seeing what the seeding, and because there's been a lot of talk about the Patriots and possibly running out with this easy schedule. A quick glance, the Chiefs would not be in the playoffs today if the season ended. And I think everybody would want the Chiefs in their back pocket. And yet they're not going to be there. Baltimore's not in there right now. It's unbelievable. The Bengals aren't there. Obviously, those two teams had injuries at the quarterback position. But at the beginning of the season, if you're telling me those three teams are on the outside looking in, and I have a lot of faith that, the Chiefs are going to, get back into it. But heck, they could lose this week to Denver.
Sure.
And again, when we're talking about teams that we can trust, I would hope to trust the Chiefs. But if you've played them every week, you're out of this. You're out of this thing.
Yep. I lost a couple on the Jaguars Monday night game for sure. That was a tough one. Absolutely. Here's what I'm thinking for Buffalo, though, fellas. If I can save Buffalo till the end of the season, last game of the season against the Jets, and this isn't a year, it looks like, where the Bills are going to be way ahead in the AFC East and resting their guys. How about that hedge spot with the Bills as what, a 13-point favorite?
I would snap take it, Tony. I would snap take it. If you're telling me we're in week 18, that's one. But with the Bills, I'd take it.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. So, Mitch, you want to give us any more just general thoughts before we get out of here? We really appreciate your time. Anything you were hoping that I had asked you that you didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, I love the way that we kick this round for this week and then upcoming, what we're thinking about and teams that we want no part of, that kind of deal. So it's a good discussion, and certainly mental notes have been taken every time that I'm on with you guys. And I think it's like people helping people here, like in Wedding Crashers. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal.
I think it shows. I think something that we can just get from all of our guests that we've had this week, and everybody basically that has ever really been on the show that tweets and on everything. If you notice, 27% of the pool last week was on the Carolina Panthers. I don't think we had one single guest last week or this week or guests that we've had in the past that tweeted that they were on the Panthers. So I think we are, as a collective group, really kind of fairly sharp. I mean, maybe that's just kind of maybe the way it just kind of worked out on that one. But I think it's kind of a testament to this group that we all kind of saw that landmine coming, and our collective community here at Saturday Night Sweat kind of avoided it. We got many tweets and messages on the YouTube stuff that was basically like, hey, you guys kept me off of Carolina in my personal pool and my splash pools and things like that. So, thanks everybody for tuning in and those positive messages. And hopefully we're smartening everybody up. And the guests that we bring on are definitely smartening me up. So,
David, are the Texans the team this week? I don't think anybody on this show has said that they're on the Texans this week. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that
everybody's on the Patriots. We're all through. This whole show's through already.
True. Yeah, for sure. We'll see if the Texans can cause a little bit of carnage tomorrow with 12-ish% on them. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you again next week. Good luck, everybody.
See you guys. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.